I'm afraid to, or sorry to tell you that my reflection's not a happy one today. I've got a friend named Penny. I love Penny because she is passionate. She's volunteered for Habitat for Humanities for over 10 years. But I also love her because she isn't afraid to tell you about when she is unhappy, often in the most hilariously dramatic ways. Penny, like me, served in the military. She served in the Navy for 22 years. The Navy did a lot of amazing things for her. She got to see the world, the primary reason she joined. She got to feed her passion to serve, and most importantly, she met the love of her life. There was just one problem. The love of her life just happened to also be a woman. Still, they managed to make it work. Even when they were stationed in different places, they managed to make regular trips to visit each other. They were happy with the life they had. Then one day, everything changed. Penny got a call. The love of her life had breast cancer, and the prognosis wasn't good. Over the next 4 months, Penny visited her friend in the hospital as often as she could, having to sneak covert messages of love as the woman she imagined growing old with slowly wasted away. After 4 months, the love of her life was gone, and Penny had to suffer on her own, hiding the pain as best she could, no help, no support from the military, no counseling. She bore the loss and grief all alone. Normally, I try to say something positive in my reflections. I warned you up front, this wasn't a happy one. The only thing good I've taken from this, when someone says anything negative about LGBTQ serving in the military, I just tell them about Penny and the love of her life. Thank you.
You want to have a chat? You want to bring the tissues up? Oh, thank you. That was cruel, wasn't it? That was just pretty mean. I'm sorry. I'm not really sorry, but I'm a little sorry.
Yeah,
I'm a tiny bit sorry, but I'm not totally sorry. Yeah. So we just want to have a chat here. You all can listen if you want. We're just gonna have like has anyone ever seen Between Two Palms, the conversations? This is Imagine Palms on either side of us. My friend Margie and I are going to have. So I'd like to just ask you a few questions. Oh, no, he's got a lavalier. Thank you, though, so much. Yod, okay. So can you tell us a little bit, when you first heard that you were being investigated, what was that, what happened? What happened in your head?
I was completely shocked, absolutely shocked, because I'd been walked down the hall by my commander saying that somebody was doing an investigation on base and wanted to chat with me. And she just sort of opened the door and scooched me in. And I didn't know it was me that was under investigation. It was a shock. I tried to remain calm, not give anything away. Right. But immediately I thought, no.
They are having trouble.
Oh.
Did I push the wrong button, Jake?
I don't know, but try that.
Try it again.
Testing.
There you go.
Hi.
Hi. How are you,
Yeah.
baby?
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocked, but deep down within me, I was angry because I had every right to be there. And yesterday I was fine, and all of a sudden, because somebody said something about me today, I'm not fine. You appreciated me yesterday, but I'm your trash today. So it kind of steeled me, you know, if there's any way I can fight this, I'm going to do it. And yeah, I'm a small cog in this wheel. There are many people before that fought this fight, whether it was before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or after Don't Ask, Don't Tell. But those are the shoulders, you know, that I stand on today. But those were also the people that showed me that courage. I admired them before it ever came to my front door. I was, you know, Greta Kammermeyer was one of my heroes and an absolute role model. And watching her fight almost 20 years before, Don't Ask, Don't Tell came in after that.
And can you tell people who Greta was?
Colonel Greta Kammermeyer was, at the time, the highest ranking officer that was discharged, and it was prior to Don't Ask, Don't Tell. She was in the Army National Guard in Washington, and she was in for questioning. She was going to be the head of the entire National Guard and nurses. And in her interview investigation, she revealed that she was a lesbian because she didn't lie. And at the time, it wasn't Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And normally they would have to prove and put you before a court of your peers and give you an Article 15 and prove that it somehow affected your service. She ended up actually winning her case and was reinstated back into the National Guard, but never did achieve, you know, that position or the rank of general, which I think she definitely deserved.
Absolutely.
But I watched that. I watched her story unfold. It was very close to me. She was from Washington. She was a nurse. Before Greta, there are multiple cases, but one of the other ones that stood out to me, again, because it was somebody that was born and raised where I was in Tacoma, and now I'm going to blank on the name, Perry Watkins. It was one of the first nationally covered, widely covered stories that, and I followed that even when I was stationed in Europe and picking up papers here and there. And Perry Watkins actually won his case too. I actually ended up with the same attorney 20 years later.
Well done. You were watching well.
I had
You
no
were
idea.
watching well.
So yeah, they set that role model, and I just steeled myself and said, if I have any way that I can fight this, I'm going to.
And you know, I just can't even imagine what it's like watching those going, no one knows about me yet. No one knows,
Right.
and being that vulnerable the whole time. This could be you. And then all of a sudden seeing, oh, this is me.
Yeah, I mean, I did 18 years. I thought I was just cruising under that radar, you know. I was gonna, under the gator. I was going to do my time. So yeah, that was a shock. And it was kind of a don't ask, don't tell. Everybody thought, oh, whew, you know, we can actually serve. But that was kind of a fallacy. It made it easier for the military to discharge someone. I mean, when he told me sign this paper and you'll be out in 2 weeks, I thought that's impossible. The military can't do anything in 2 weeks. Nuh-uh, no. But that was it. I mean, that because don't ask, don't tell wasn't actually a policy; it was law. And it wasn't that anyone could just say. Anybody could just say anything. And now, with Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you were the one that had to prove you weren't gay. Try that. Try proving you're not heterosexual. I mean, it was insane. But that was the fallacy of thinking that it was a safer place to be under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I felt that it was a safer place. I wasn't going to tell anybody, and nobody could ask because it was not legal for them to even ask. But the fact was that you could never have told anyone in your entire life. Ever. So it's still hard for me to say the words.
Right, right, because you've been trained not to for so long.
Yeah, absolutely. It's weird to hear my mom say lesbian.
So let's talk
Freely,
about
freely.
your mom.
Freely.
Because once this happened, your name was out there, and you were going to fight this.
Oh yeah, because there was a big Don't Ask, Don't Tell in my house too.
There was.
Big Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
So this process meant that you had to come out to your parents, because you
Before
were
I went on
going-
national TV.
Yes. How did
Yeah.
that go?
Yeah. Well, that was the most terrifying of all, because that was always what I hadn't been out because I didn't want to disappoint my parents, and there's this underlying that I knew I was going to be a disappointment. So I just tried to be the best kid that I could be. But now I had to tell them, and this was a big risk, and because you have friends with horror stories that, they were disowned. There's so many homeless kids out
Anyone
there.
have horror stories out here? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's many here who can relate.
The coming out stories are not always wonderful.
They don't always go
But
well.
I've got to tell you, I had a friend waiting in a car up the road that was going to come get me if it went poorly. My sister joined me, and because I had been pretending I was still coming home and going to my reserve weekends, which I couldn't keep doing that because it was going to be on the news the next day. So I told my parents, sat them down, told them my mom looked confused as to what was happening, and my father didn't miss a beat. And he looked at me and he said, "You're going to fight it, aren't you?"
Ah!
I mean, this is my old World War II veteran father, and he would have been the one that I would have expected not to be so supportive, but as soon as he said that, I had won. I had won. From then on, it was like, whatever they need, but I won.
So important. So
Yeah.
important. Parents, grandparents,
The most
Family.
important, yeah.
yeah, take note. So you were still, at this point, you were still ready to serve your country. You were still ready to serve. You were, but you had to redefine what serving meant. How did you do that? How did you figure out like what your job was now? You
Right.
were kicked out of the military, but you still had.
And that was very difficult, and I had to experience the loss of that, or be willing to accept that, because I had trained over half of my life to be a military nurse, and we literally were at war, and I'm home sitting on the bench, and all of my coworkers are off to war, and the team's not complete. And I could have been doing what I was trained to do and what I'd wanted to do. And I was really frustrated with that, and all I wanted to do was get back to my unit, be with my military brothers and sisters, and do the mission that I had been trained for. And I sought out Greta Kammermeyer, who, when she actually called me back, I stood up at attention when she said who it was. And she had me come over, and she looked at me and she said, "What is it you want?" I said, "I want to go back to my unit." And she turned me around and grabbed me by the shoulders and she said, "Major, your mission has changed." Yes, ma'am. It couldn't have come from a better source, from the hero that I'd admired. And from that day forward, my mission changed. It was a different purpose, a valuable purpose for many, many people. And I vowed if it helped one person, it would be worth it.
Helped a few more than one. A few more than one. So I happen to know this story a little bit, but tell me about the moment, because you couldn't talk to anyone in your unit during all of this time.
No. That when they told me to pack up and go, no, the only person that had been told was the first sergeant and the commander of the unit, and I wasn't to talk to or tell, because I was still under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I couldn't tell anybody. And they were wondering where I was, and they would ask where I was, and they just said, "Oh, she's gone, she's not coming back." And that it dawned on me that I didn't know anybody that had been kicked out under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, because they vanished in the night. They just went away.
And
I
so
disappeared.
you disappeared. But you didn't, you were
But-
fighting.
And the people kept calling and saying, where are you? What happened? What, you know? And then when they found out with the news, it was, what can we do?
And can you tell us about the moment when you did when a number of them came and in the trial? Can you tell us about that? Because I love this story.
This is my favorite part of this wonderful story. I had almost like a 2-week trial. I had trial. Try having your parents sit through your trial. But for me, it was like being at my own funeral. They had, because they had to prove that I wasn't a threat to unit cohesion and morale. Which I thought, really? You're going to come after me for that? If anybody knows me, I'm like, okay, right, yeah, you can try. But they had members of my unit because they wanted to help. They wanted to do something. And I was not the only one in the village. I mean, there were other LGBT members in my squadron. But ironically, it was all the straight ones that came forward to take the stand over and over and over again. And it was so humbling. And it was the, you asked this on purpose.
I know.
It was them who saved me and all of the rest of us. You know, they were the ones that took the stand for the people that didn't have a voice. And it was my squadron members that were willing, and it was not easy for them. The military tried to stop that. But they were the ones that stepped forward for so many people. And I'm proud to know them. And be forever grateful for them. And I wish that they were the ones that had the standard. Because, you know, anybody that really knows me chuckles. Witt standard's a whole different thing.
Yeah, Witt standard has something to do with.
So many different meanings.
Yes, well,
Yeah.
legally though, it's
Yeah.
the thing. And it should be you. It's really important. So all of this, you know, you've got media attention, you've got the military doing this, you've got all of this, you're not connected with your unit. How did you find your center? How did you figure out how to just keep going through all of this? How did you figure that out in the chaos?
It took me a while. I earned all of these. I was a brunette when it started. You know, finding my center, Lori is my center. And we just took care of each other. I mean, having that peace and having that foundation made all the difference for me. And that was never in question. And that was the easy part. That was the easy part. Still is. Thank you.
What have you heard from other service members since all of that happened? What are the conversations that other service members have with you when they meet you?
We all have a story. And, you know, not everyone gets to share their story. And there are deep hurts and pains that go way back. Because this has been going on since the beginning of the military. I mean, over 100,000 discharges just prior to Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Around 14,000 after Don't Ask, Don't Tell was put into place. And everyone has their story, and everyone, I think, benefits from sharing their story. And if I can be in a place where people can share their story, sometimes it's for the first time, then that's a good thing. There are a lot of scars.
There are a lot of scars. A lot of scars for you, a lot of scars for all of them, and to share that with each other and to say, I see you.
Yep.
And to say, I see you. And I think that's something that we do a lot here, is we share our scars, we share our stories, and we say, I see you. What is something that you learned from the process that you hadn't learned before?
Well, I learned a lot about the law and the legal system and how many courts there are. There's a lot of different courts.
It turns out, yeah.
Turns out, I went through a few of them. And patience with that. And that every voice, if you're able to have a voice, every voice counts. And being visible counted. I spent so much of my time trying to be invisible, and it was hard to be that one that was visible after all that time, but it's so important that even that one voice, because it took years and years and so many people to help bring us to more equality. I guess I learned to, I always appreciated the history, but I learned that it's important to keep telling the history too, because, and it's kind of ironic, because we wanted the younger folks coming up in the military to never have to experience that. And now we're like, wait a minute, you need to know. You need to know. But also be joyful that they don't have to think about it. To not have to think about it is really an amazing, freeing experience, and you can keep so much more of that energy for other things that really matter.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to say, on behalf of the congregation, thank you for sharing your story. You are one of my dearest friends. I love you. But from this standpoint, I'm in awe of your courage and your commitment. I'm in awe of you, Lori, for standing by with all of this that you never signed up for and that you went through this together. I'm so glad that we're friends. But thank you. Thank you for your courage and your commitment.
Thank you all for having me today. And just thank you.
Oh, they're doing it. Yeah, they're doing it. Soak it in, baby.